community, and to what extent does a community have responsibility to the world, to people outside of the community? To what extent does a community need to share its resources in order to make sure everyone in the community is safe? What's the responsibility of my community towards the wider community and towards the world? That's really the question. I have to admit, it's a very, very big question. And I would not have the audacity to say that we are going to complete the discussion. What we're going to do is we're going to look, as we did last week actually, we're going to look at 3 sources, each one taken from the Gemara, each one a different little piece of Gemara, and we're going to look at these 3 little pieces of Gemara. Not that these are the only 3 pieces of Gemara that speak about communal responsibility, and we're not going to look at everything that was ever written on any of these pieces of Gemara, but these are 3 insights, each one sharing light on a different aspect of the responsibility of a community towards the community and towards the wider world. Okay, so we're going to start with a Mishnah. The Mishnah in Gittin, and the Mishnah in Gittin says this. It's the Mishnah in Gittin, chapter 4, Mishnah number 6. Ein podin et hashvuyin yeter al demehen, mipnei tikun haolam. It is forbidden to free hostages for more than their worth because of tikun olam. Ve'ein mavrichin et hashvuyim mipnei tikun haolam. And you're not allowed to allow them, to help them escape, also because of tikkun olam. Tikkun olam is like fixing of the world. It's a concept that we'll discuss in more detail in a minute. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel Omer, Rabbi Shimon the son of Gamliel taught, Bipnei takanat hashvuyim, that the reason why you're not allowed to do it is not about tikkun olam, but it is because of tikkun hashvuyim. Ein lochin sfarim utfilin umezuzot min hagoyim yeter al demehen mipnei tikkun haolam, and you're not allowed to buy back stolen tefillin or mezuzot for more than their worth because of tikkun haolam. Tikkun haolam is fixing of the world. Okay, I just want to add one important thing for us to think about whilst we're learning now. Right now in the Jewish world, meaning this minute, unfortunately we have brothers and we have sisters who are hostages in Gaza. What are our study now of the Mishnah and the commentaries on the Mishnah is in no way a statement about what should be happening today. What should be happening today? All we're doing now is we're learning Jewish values on the topic of communal responsibility. But I think we turn to our great rabbis and our great Torah leaders to guide us in understanding sources in order to understand what the right thing to do is in every situation. There's always a lot of cherry picking where, you have a position and then you find sources that would support that position, and then somebody else does some cherry picking and they find some sources that support their position. So we're not involved in what's going on right now. The decision of what the Torah perspective on the terrible situation that we are living through this minute. So that's the decision of the great Torah leaders of our generation. Baruch, God, we're blessed with Talmidei Chachamim, with great Torah leaders in every generation, and we heed their guidance in navigating situations. But our discussion on this particular Mishnah is not a commentary on what should be going on now. Is that clear? We'll come to you 1 minute.
What is Tikkun Shavuyim?
Oh, Tikkun Shvuyim is like to protect captives. Meaning, if let's say some of you help a captive escape, the other captives who have to remain will then their conditions will become
I think that answers my question. I was going to ask, what is it? What are we talking about? Forbidden to help hostages escape? It sounded a little.
Oh no! So they're worried about what impact that might have on the others.
But if you can rescue all of them,
yeah, then of course that's what you want to. Yeah, of course.
Don't take back 2 and leave back 5.
Yeah. That's what this that's what this mission is talking about. Our situation today is not is a different situation. Okay, so Gemara, the Talmud discusses what does the word tikkun olam mean. What is tikkun olam? Hai mipnei tikkun haolam. What does it mean? Like we want to fix the world, and the Gemara presents 2 interpretations of what the idea of tikkun haolam, fixing the world, 2 interpretations of what that might mean. This is a Gemara in Gittin Daf Mem Hey Amud Aleph. So Gemara says like this: Mishum durka tzibura, because we're putting a strain on the community. Meaning the community's only got limited funds, and if the community has only got limited funds, then when you start demanding that everybody pays in order to release hostages, so the result is that the community will not be able to survive to attend to its needs. So the reason why you do not redeem them is because of the strain that paying the ransom would put on the community. That's option number 1. Or Dilma, or perhaps a second interpretation. Mishum delo ligavru velaitu tfei. In order to stop this practice from happening in the future. Meaning, if you have a very wealthy, a nafkam.
Example.
What?
We have in the past we've done these crazy deals where we've given like 1,000 terrorists for 1 soldier.
Right.
And now, anytime there's a situation, they know that they can demand such high prices because they know we're willing to pay it.
Oh, exactly. So that would be a difference between those 2 interpretations. Well, the first one said because you're putting a strain on the community. Well, let's say if there's a billionaire who's willing to foot the cost, there'll be no strain on the community, but it's still a problem. It's still a problem because if they know they kidnap somebody and they can get, millions and millions of shekels, so then that will only encourage them to do it again. But if they kidnap somebody and they don't get anything, then eventually that practice they'll stop doing it. Is that clear to everybody? Okay, on this idea of putting the community in a strain, Rashi explains what that might mean. That we're not you're not allowed to put the community into, not allowed to apply pressure on the community. You're not allowed to make the community poor as a result of what you're doing. Okay, that's the Gemara. That's the Mishnah, the Gemara followed by Rashi. I'll just add a story to this. There is a rabbi, the teacher of the Rosh, Rabbeinu Asher, one of the Rishonim. He had a teacher called Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Meir, who lived in a town called Rothenburg. This is in Germany, or it might be France, I don't actually know, but somewhere in Western Europe. And this Rabbi Meir of Rothenburg was taken captive by the non-Jewish authorities, and the community started raising money to have Rabbi Meir Rothenburg released from jail. And Rabbi Meir from Rothenburg sent a message to the community saying, even if you raise all the money to have me released from jail, I won't come out. Why? Because of this Mishnah. He felt that if the community were to pay up this ransom on Rabbi Meir Rothenburg, so then the next week, the next rabbi is going to disappear. So if by not paying the ransom for Rabbi Meir Rothenburg, they can then stamp out this, kidnapping of rabbis, then that's to be praiseworthy. And indeed, that's what they did. Rabbi Meir Rothenburg died in jail. He died in jail. It's even worse than that. After Rabbi Meir Rothenburg died, the non-Jewish authorities wouldn't give the body back, and they demanded a ransom in order for him to have a Jewish burial.
This was in Germany?
Yeah.
What year?
It was probably in the 12th century.
Oh, this was way before that.
Oh, yeah. No, the story is in the time of the Rishonim. Now, after he passed away, I think he was in jail. His body remained there, maybe it was 7. I can't remember if it was 7 or 12. I think it was 7 years that his body remained unburied for 7 years. And then after the 7 years, I think so either they waived the requirement to pay the ransom, or somebody from the community said, this is enough, we're going to have to pay the ransom. But we see from the story of Rabbi Meir Rothenburg, as recorded by him, Rabbi Meir Rothenburg, and also by his student, Rabbeinu Asher, the Rosh, we see that this Mishnah was applied. This was something that people did. And after this decision, this courageous decision of Rabbi Meir Rothenburg not to be released from jail, there were no other attempted kidnappings of Jewish leaders. Meaning he managed to thwart their plan. This didn't work. Of course, we, the Jewish community, lost great Torah knowledge from the fact that Rabbi Meir Rothenburg was unable to be teaching Torah to the Jewish community, but it seems that was a price worth paying in order to save the Jewish community from this extra expense. Okay, so that's point number 1. So we see that there is a requirement for a community to maintain a certain level of, I don't know, like wealth. Is that, or like that you can't put pressure on a community to such an extent that by applying that pressure on the community itself will then become in need of help. You follow?
Yeah, to preserve the community's economic stability.
Exactly. That's exactly to secure the economic security of the community. In fact, this is echoed in halakha that appears in the Rambam and elsewhere, that when I give charity, when I give tzedakah, you're supposed to give 1/10 of your income to charity, but you're not allowed to give more than 1/5. If I want to give all of my wealth, I wouldn't be allowed to. I'm required to give 1/10, but I can't give more than 20%. Meaning it's between 10 and 20%. Why not more than 20%? The same as what you were saying earlier, and that is that I need to maintain my own personal financial security. In order to ensure my financial security, I can't be giving away everything to everybody else. Okay. Yes. Oh, tshuva. I now remembered. I'm sorry. Last time it wasn't so good. Yes.
I don't know. I'm just curious about if it is 1/10 is for 1 times to do the tzadikah, which is like if every Shabbat, for example, if you in community you divide 4 times, and then total 1/10 of the income to the tzadikah. How tzadikah have to be in this case?
Normally, I know what people normally do is they normally give the tzedakah not on a weekly, but as income comes in. So let's say your salary comes in once a month. So then you would calculate how much of your salary will you be giving to charity this month. Does that make sense to you?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. Yisrael.
Is low income, I should count my saving. You understand?
Oh, that's a good question. Good question. Let's say I have no income. I'm living off savings. Good question. That's a really good question. I don't know what to say about that.
Because I hear someone say should be count how many the assets and the saving, the 10%. It's not just about the income. For example, now I have 100, but I no income. After next month, I just maybe $80 should be count $80. At the next month, no income. We had the $60 should be count $60, 10%.
That's a really good question. I'm not sure that's a very good question. I'm thinking to myself perhaps that it's not about how much I have, but I wonder whether in that situation, but I really don't know what to do. But good question. But let's say I would figure out how much money I spent in a month, and I'd roughly calculate how much is a tenth of the amount that I spent. And maybe that might be an appropriate amount to give to charity. Assuming that I'm not like buying a house this month, but I mean like my food expenses. The point is, it's just, I think it's part of like being aware of my responsibility to others. It's quite a difficult balance, because on the one hand, if I give everything away, then I've lost my financial stability. But if on the other hand, I don't think at all about anybody else, that's really a very selfish way with which to live my life. So I would maybe look at the expenses that I paid for food during the course of a month. Let's say I spent, 400 shekel on food over the course of a month. So then it might be appropriate to give 40 shekel to charity. I might spend 2,000 shekel in a month, not 400 of which was, but I would think that I would pay 10% of my food bill, not 10% of my expenses.
Well, there could be a just I was thinking when he said that. Well, I mean, there's a few possible scenarios. One is like, let's say a person had a practice already to set aside 10% when they had income to charity. So, and then they amass savings, but then they no longer have income. That person hypothetically would have already given charity for their income when it came in, when they were saving it up.
Oh, that's a good point.
So then if they took the 10% out, they would be giving double.
Yeah, no. Then he wouldn't need to. No. If you've got that set up, then you wouldn't need to.
Or if a person was like a gior or a Baal Tshuva, then, well, in the case of a convert, I don't know, would the person be obligated to give charity off of that money? Or I think a practice like you said makes sense. Like, because in the past, I could say like, okay, so if somebody is a Baal Tshuva, and then they had all this wealth, all these savings, and then they never donated any money to tzedakah.
Right.
Then I would say, okay, take 10% of your savings and give it to charity.
Yeah, that's quite harsh.
But that's hard, right? But
If
a person like was Jewish from birth and was like obligated to give tzedakah.
No, I would go by this 10% of like my monthly sort of, like expenses, but not if I bought a phone or a computer, but more about my monthly, like for food and I don't know.
I was just thinking, it opens up a whole kind of...
Yeah, no, I think that would get too complicated. I'll end up with nothing. Okay, the first source shows, from the first source we see, there's a limit to the amount that you can put a strain on a community. Nachon? You can't let them... Now, we're going to see this become even stronger in source number 2. Source number 2 is a crazy, crazy story. Source number 2 is from the Gemara in Nidarim, Daf, Pei Amud Bet. So, the Gemara talks about like a stream. Oh, I'm sorry. There's a stream. Can I take this and draw on the board? What fun. Okay. No, Michael, I think it's going to work. Is that okay with everyone here? Okay, look here. We're going to do... This is Town A.
Look at this production crew over here.
That's Town A. Can you see Town A?
Yeah.
Okay, Town A get a lot of money. They get a lot of their sustenance from the river that passes their town. Do you see that? And they all live there. Now, just a bit further down the river is Town B. Do you follow? Everyone see Town A and Town B? And here's the river that goes down. Might have fish in it as well. Okay. Oh, really? Is that it? Okay, now I'm back. Right, now, look at... Oh, wow, you are good. Thank you, Yosef.
He deserves a raise, right?
Raise, very good. Okay. Ma'ayan Shelir. So now, if you have a water spring that passes through some villages, Chayehem v'chaye acherim, Chayehen kodmim l'chaye acherim. Now, let's say people of town A take water, but they take so much water in town A that there may not be enough water for the people of town B. And if town A takes so much water that they dry out a little bit of the river, and there's a possibility that as a result, people from town B may die. If the water came to town A first, we say the lives of the people in town A take precedence over the lives of the people in town B. And that makes sense. Why? Because the water got there first. I shouldn't have to give up my water and let it go down to there. There's not enough water for everybody. And for whatever reason, my town happens to be the town that the water passes first. So therefore, my life in town A takes precedence over the lives of town B. Is that
I
clear?
was thinking maybe it's because if they try to split it and they try to figure out some way to do it, they're going to end up having dead people in both towns. And they're both losers.
Excellent. Good. That's great. Yeah. I mean, the Gemara talks about Rabbi Akiva's got a Gemara. You know, if there's one bottle, here's our prop. If there's a bottle in the desert and there's enough water for one person and two people find the bottle, so do they share it and they both go, or does the one that finds it? You know, the Gemara discusses this debate. It's not a million miles away from this debate, and Rabbi Akiva says that the person that finds it drinks it in the knowledge that, you know, he's saving his life, and because what's the point in everybody going? So it's not a million miles away from what you're saying over here, that if town A can survive, let town A survive. The water got there first, right? Okay, so there are three cases. That's case number one. Case number two, behem tam kodemet levehimat acherim. Kvisatam ukvisat acherim, kvisatam kodemet lekvisat acherim. Okay, now look at this. What happens if, instead of it's about the lives of people in town A versus the lives of people in town B, but it is the laundry of town A? And the laundry, meaning there's enough water for everyone in town A to drink, there's enough water for everyone in town B to drink. But now we're taking the next level of water, and that is for laundry. So town A can complete all their laundry, they can do all of their laundry, even if it means that town B won't be able to do any laundry. Likewise, town A is allowed to give water to all of their animals, even if that means that the animals in town B won't get any water. Is that clear to everybody? Meaning, it seems to be the principle always is that, I mean, unfortunately there's a drought. It's no one's fault. That's just the way HaKadosh Baruch Hu decided there's going to be a drought here. But if the resources came to my town first, so I don't have to say, oh, let me not take them and let them go to you. If they came to me, I should take them to save my life. Like the water bottle. Whoever's got the water bottle, he should drink the water. Even if chas v'sholom, it means someone else will leave this world. Is that clear to everyone? Mm-hmm. Everything clear until now? Now, the final case. And this is a complicated case. What happens if it's not between lives of A and lives of B, and it's not about laundry of A and laundry of B, or animals of A and animals of B? What happens if town A have got enough water for drinking, they've got enough water for their animals, but they want water for their laundry? What takes precedence? The laundry of town A or the lives of town B? Matem choshvim?
The lives of town B.
The lives of town B. Anyone disagree?
It's Rabbi Yossi in the room. Rabbi Yossi comes out of the corner.
Question. If town A doesn't do laundry, will that lead to disease in town A?
Let's get to that. Rabbi, very good. Very, very, very good. Very good. So the Gemara says, everybody. Well, the Gemara, the Chachamim. Well, I would say the Micha follows the Chachamim, and Micha follows the Chachamim by saying that the laundry of town A loses to the lives of town B. But Rabbi Yossi disagrees with Micha. And Rabbi Yossi says that the laundry of town A takes precedence over the lives of town B. So you see that? Rabbi Yossi Omer, Kvisatan kodemet lechaye acherim. Now that is just unbelievable, right? So why is that the case? So I want to look at two sources, and then I want to talk about the ramifications of this. Because all of us are reading this and saying, which crazy world could there be that would allow town A to do their laundry al cheshbon, sort of in account of the lives of people in town B? What a crazy, how could that possibly be? So the Ran, and the Pinchas follows the Ran. Baruch Shekivanta, the Ran explains Rabbi Yossi and says, why is it that the laundry of town A take precedence over the drinking water for town B? Disfura leila Rabbi Yossi, because Rabbi Yossi believes, source number 5, de kevan de b'miniyat kvisa ichatzara tuva chaye nefeshu. There's great pain to have no laundry, and therefore it is chaye nefesh. Now, it's very interesting. Is he saying it's pikuach nefesh? Or is he saying tzara tuva? Tzara tuva means to live in a world where I'm not doing any laundry is a very uncomfortable world to live in. But really, if I could just reframe the debate over here, is to what extent do I need to put myself in an uncomfortable situation in order to save somebody else's life? Now, I just want to make Rabbi Yossi harsher for you, and to show, I think, that there are many people that follow the opinion of Rabbi Yossi, and I'll explain to you what I mean. Let's say I have 50, no, that's probably more. Let's say I have 300 shekel in my pocket, right? And there are two ways I could spend 300 shekel. I could either, I don't know, I could either propose to my soulmate and have a beautiful romantic dinner with her and spend 300 shekel at a restaurant, and we'll have supper together and, Bezrat Hashem. Hopefully it's going to work.
Maybe even dessert as well.
Yeah. Option A. Or I could just spend, 40 shekel at the makolet, buy some food, and then I've got 260 shekel to give to charity. Now that 260 shekel could save a life. The could be somebody who's got no food. So what justification do I have to spend 260 shekel on a lavish meal at a restaurant when that same 250 shekel could save a life? Atem shomim? So Rabbi Yossi will say it's fine because my luxuries, kvisa, takes precedence over their lives. You follow? Yeah.
Well, to understand in the context, I think the river metaphor, at least the way I'm making sense of it, is that at first I looked at it and I'm like, okay, well, each village has an equal right to the water in the river. And then in this context, I guess, like you're saying with the expensive dinner date, is like, so trying to grapple with Rabbi Yossi's view, I guess there's a way of looking at it as the water rightfully belongs to the villagers in village A. They're giving it to the next village by sacrificing their laundry, but if they don't do laundry, it's a very uncomfortable situation.
Right.
So it's a question of who does the water belong to? And it's like this, is it a socialist, communist perspective where it's like everybody is equal right, or is it like the people who live in the village and has no direct supply? Or
although why would it be theirs? Because it happens to pass there. It's a ma'ayan, which is like a natural water.
Yeah.
That's I'm not sure.
Why would it be theirs?
No,
What were you going to add, Zachariah?
I was going to be very mediyach on your example of the restaurants. So, like you said, 260 shekels wasted because you get the food for 40 shekels, right?
Yeah.
Okay. But okay, when you give to a charity, not the 100% of it goes to like people in need. Like some charities have like expenses that they need to cover as well up front. And so the one thing I know about working in restaurants is, well, two things that are specific to this.
Oh, with the right man
Two
here.
is that you have very low profit margin in a restaurant. I mean, if you have 10%, you're doing very well, very very well. So, and then the most of the money goes to paying staff. Like food costs about 20%. The rest goes to paying staff and the upkeep of the building and rent, whatever. And so, if you look at who's employed at the restaurants, these are the people that are actually like on the fringe of society that are like very liable to become like homeless or not have another job or like they have like
Oh,
marks on
you
their
are
records, like,
good. You
so
are
really, you're
good.
not, it's not 260 shekels wasted. You might actually be benefiting society more from eating at the restaurant.
Oh, that is really
That's why.
good. Zachariah, that was excellent. That's an excellent
It doesn't
point.
change the point of the river, but it was just interesting.
Yeah. I want to explain where I'm coming from, though, when I say like that the water. There's an argument that the water could belong to the people of town A.
Yeah.
Now this is. I'm not saying this because I believe this. Like when you asked me,
Yeah.
my first answer was they should, not do their laundry for the people in town B. But like, let's say instead of the metaphor of the river, we imagine like a coal mine or an iron mine. So there's a town that lives right at the base of a mountain that's very rich in like mineral ore. So they have the opportunity to mine all of the ore in the mountain, all the iron, and they could, live good lives. They could feed their children. They could, have clothes for their children to wear and do everything, etc. Now, they live right next to the mountain, so they have every option to strip the mountain clean of the ore. But also there's people who live in a further town who maybe want to come and get some iron. So do they just leave like a big pile of iron by the side and say, okay, we're going to sacrifice, we're going to live, less full lives just in order so that you can take this iron?
I wonder if that's different because, like in the river, the river flows to B. Here, like village B needs to go to village A. Do you know what I mean? I don't know if that makes a difference.
I don't know.
That's a good question.
Another way. To who do the resources belong to?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Belong to the people in the closest proximity to them.
Yeah. Well, the river's more complicated because a river, like.
Yeah.
Well, like who was a philosopher about you can't walk into the same river twice. So what is what makes the river? It's flowing water, but the water that I step in now is different water to what it was 5 seconds ago. So what makes it mine? Because it's got it's flowing through. It's not something that I own, or because it's gone the next minute. But I'm still thinking about your point, Zachariah, about it's not really wasted because you're providing a parnasa, but I could provide a parnasa in another way.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like that's not the. I don't go into the restaurant.
Your point still stands.
Yeah. No, but I do. But I'm wondering, because I go to the restaurant not in order. Although we do that to some extent. Anyway, the truth is, the answer is along the lines of what you're saying.
Oh.
That we'll get if we have a look. So we looked at the first point we looked at was really the run. Pinchas follows what the run said, and that is, if you don't do laundry, you'll get ill. The Rav Moshe Feinstein continues on the same thing over here. He says, "Vaday delo ayri b'pikuach nefesh elo b'tzara tuva." We're not talking about pikuach nefesh. If it was pikuach nefesh, then obviously town A comes before town B. Meaning, if the lives of town A are in danger, then obviously, if town A is in danger, then obviously they can take the water. So when we speak about doing the laundry for town A, we're not talking that town A will die of disease if they don't do laundry. It's not pikuach nefesh. The lives of town A are not at risk, but it's tsara tuva. Tsara tuva means great pain. דלרבנן צר השתייה עדיף מכביסה שזה אפשר לבוא לידי חולשת הגוף וכן נקרא זה חיי אחרים. ורבי יוסי סובר תצר הטובה שיש מכביסה הוא גם כן מביא לפעמים לידי שיעמומיתה שגם כן היא כחיי הנפש. So now Rabbi Yossi says something very, very interesting. And I think the truth is many societies actually follow Rabbi Yossi, however upset Michael would be to hear this. Because what's Rabbi Yossi saying? Rabbi Yossi is saying that the laundry of town A is about, if there's certain things that I need, not to be just have my heart beating, but there's more to life than to being physically alive. There's something called quality of life. You follow? And what he's saying is that quality of life is such an important concept that sometimes if I have resources, I could choose to invest in quality of life at the expense of saving lives. That's why in a town like here, here in Jerusalem, they just spent millions and millions of shekels on the National Library, which you can walk to from here. It's a beautiful, beautiful building. Does that save any lives? Imagine instead of building the National Library, they built a hospital. And that would save. So how do I justify building the National Library or a swimming pool or a museum or a concert hall or a theatre? How can I justify any of these things? Because none of them are saving lives, and those resources that I'm investing in culture, Chaye Nefesh, could have been invested in saving lives. And the answer is, and this is what Rav Moshe Feinstein is saying, is the opinion of Rabbi Yossi over here. How scary though it is, even though the lives of town A are not in danger, is not pikuach nefesh. However, there's no value in just being alive. There's certain investments that we need to do for our lives to maintain a certain standard of living, because we need that for our quality of life. You follow? And if I was just alive, that's all I had, that would lead to shi'amumita, boredom. And that is like chaye nefesh. Chaye nefesh is like my soul's life. Say if I'm involved in music, what's the point of music? But there is a point of music because it feeds my soul. Do you know what I mean? But all of that is Rabbi Yossi. That's all Rabbi Yossi is saying. Wow. I sometimes choose I don't want to say luxuries, but I sometimes choose my broader experiences at the expense of saving a life. Because for my life to have meaning, in order for me to have quality of life, there are certain things that we need to invest in, even though they're not saving life. And that's why here in Jerusalem they spent millions of dollars, probably more, on building this library, this beautiful library, even though it's not going to save anyone's lives, the library, or you can spend hours and hours playing the guitar. There's not going to save a life, but it gives life meaning. It will save lives, you're right. Sorry. No, but it gives meaning, it gives value, and I can't take that away. So if we go back to the first source, we spoke about putting a strain on the community. The strain on the community is more than just making sure that everyone's got food to eat, but I need to be able to maintain the culture and the the experiences that would allow me to live a full human life. And if I were to take away from those, I would also be putting too much of a strain on the community. Does that make sense to everybody?
I have a question.
Yes.
When say for city A for quality of life and more than thinking life of B, it is behind of all these things to if A allowed to give water B, it's losing the money or opportunity water for quality of life. It is in behind of this decision for making the quality of life better, is there some thought or interpretation like if you give to A to B, you lose the money, water, something like this or no?
Yeah, if I were to give to B,
Because psychologically, like losing is more strong than investing for something. If you think I lose something, I feel like I don't want to lose. I want to spend for myself. Like psychologically. So I was thinking maybe behind of this is the fear to give, because if you give, I lose. So so maybe
very good. You should say zero-sum game. Excellent. Yes.
I don't know how to say English, but maybe that's a point here.
That's a very good point. That's a very good point. It's more than me not having, it's me giving. As a result of me giving, I'm losing. Like if a town A were to give to town B, they would lose.
Yeah. Well, also thinking about it a little more, like when you ask the question like what takes precedence, the laundry of town A or the lives of town B, I pretty much spit out an answer right away because that was my instinct.
I think it's everyone's
It's
instinct.
everyone's instinct. But
Many people's instinct.
it didn't really leave time to think. Okay, so what kind of lives are the people in town A going to be living?
Right.
Everybody's washing their clothes. Everybody's clothes are covered in filth. What we're picturing is they're living in a hovel.
Right.
They're living in a life of suffering and disgrace.
So what's interesting in Rav Moshe Feinstein is that even if living in what you're describing was not pikuach nefesh, meaning even if it was smelly and difficult but there was no danger to life there, it would still be permissible for them to do the laundry. Meaning to have quality of life is enough reason to justify town A using the laundry, even if they're not doing it because they God forbid would die of disease if they didn't have the water.
It goes to the question of human dignity.
Yes. That's a good word. That's a good word. Yeah, my dignity, town A, is enough to justify taking the water.
I don't know.
How much? It can be all the water or half water. Doesn't matter.
So I think the Gemara is not talking. I think Gemara is talking about an idea here.
Yeah.
Like I don't think it's talking about there is no town A and there is no town B, but it's talking about an idea. Were you going to add something now?
Yeah. An example of the library and not spending it on the hospital or like other ways to save lives. If like that were the way we lived, that everything was like the bare minimum in our lives to survive, and everything else was going to save lives, regardless of the quality of our life, it would also be a form of avodah zarah. It's saying Hashem isn't the one that gives life and takes life. We are the ones that give life to people and prevent them from being taken away. It would be
because that would be the only focus of what we do is are you alive or are you not alive?
Right.
And we would be focused on making sure that as many people are alive as possible. Oh, that's very interesting. You'd be taking away from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's very, very clever.
From, like,
That's very, very clever. Because our only focus would be Pikuach Nefesh.
Right.
There's a lot of examples if we minimize like the situation of being this big thing to something like that applies to our everyday lives.
Yes.
And many of us again, as an example, the hot water in the dorms is a limited resource.
You didn't shower upstairs? It's always hot upstairs.
No, yeah, so you shower upstairs. But so to what extent?
It's exactly
it's all the trips. It's all,
yeah. So then should the people in upstairs take shorter showers?
No, they take long hot showers up there. They don't care.
Because
they
it's
like
relaxing and they need the soothing.
Right.
After
that is.
So do people upstairs care? No, they got lots of hot water.
Yeah. Sometimes I wait 30 minutes for them to finish. They take the time, really. And when I got shower, it's like half of my bath is like cold water already.
That is exactly this.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's not really exactly this at all.
It is. It really flows down from the top. Like the one bathroom's up here, the other one's down here, and it flows from the top to bottom.
I'll see.
It's
Oh,
a
that's-
parallel that we can apply.
I have a-
Yeah, that's a better way to put it. Thank you.
I have one question.
Sure.
For example, in case I get some present, it can be
A present.
can be the same case. Like I'm a A and a B. In the B, it can be Israel. It can be somebody, and I'm A. And the A, I get water, but for me, I'm fine with a little bit. But I get water because the quality of life, as you say. But if I make a system because by providing somebody else, also me, I can improve my quality of life, and it can be maybe in the 50-50 something. I don't need too much quality of life for myself, but I need quality of life for B, because I and B can be together. We can make my quality of life more higher.
Oh, wow. Can I tell you a story, Fabrizio, that your story reminds me of? I hope this works. This is a story I heard from my wife, Hannah. My wife told me it's a beautiful story. It happened to her like a month or two ago. Hannah was in many hotels here in Jerusalem have got refugees from up north, people, mefunim. They've been displaced because of the war. They normally live in the north of Israel, and they're in hotels here in central Jerusalem. So Hannah was with a woman, and she told her this story. In the evenings for supper, the hotel provides everything. So on the one hand, it's cute. But on the other hand, as a parent, you wanted to provide for your children. So as one woman, it was her son's birthday. So instead of just going and everybody was getting the food that's provided by the hotel, she decided to go to a shop, and he really liked hot, fresh rolls. So she brought a bag of 10 hot, fresh rolls, and the family were going to eat these 10 rolls. Anyway, the mother walked in to the dining room, and she saw this child crying. So she opened up this bag of 10 rolls for her family, and she gave one of the rolls to this child. Then she walked a bit further, and she saw somebody sitting all by themselves. So she opened up the bag, and she gave another roll to somebody else. And so too, she walked around, and she saw all different types of people that all needed rolls. And as a result, when she got to the table with her family, there were only 4 rolls left. So then her son started crying. She said, "This isn't fair. You bought us 10 rolls, but we've only got 4 rolls left." So the mother said, "No, we haven't got 4 rolls. We've got 6 rolls." So the son said, "How do we have 6 rolls? There are 4 rolls in the bag." So these 4 rolls in the bag, said the mother, we're going to eat these rolls, and a week from now we will have forgotten all about them. But the 6 rolls that we gave, each one was helping another person, and that sense of giving to another person will be with us forever. Isn't that a beautiful idea? But it's sort of what you were saying that, Fabrizio, that if I have and I share, so then I have the quality of, meaning my quality of life in town A, I get a greater quality of life by giving to town B. You follow what I'm saying? So let's say I need to wash my clothing. So I'm going to wash half of my clothing and give the other half for them to be able to drink. And through that I get a little bit of dignity. Plus I also get the quality of life. I get the human dignity of being able to give to another person, which is a lovely take on the story. It's taking the story in a different direction. So what I think the story was going, it was more about, our bit of the story was more about that to provide for a person doesn't just mean to give them enough for them not to die, but it also means, providing people with quality of life. Not just food, but also books to read and music to listen to and museums to visit. That's all part of being a rounded human being. Yeah.
Just have a question about it, Rob. So, until which point you are, because you have to have chesed and you have to have gvura. So, If for sure the women has a lot of like kindness giving the roles, but if she will give every person a role, she will end up nothing.
No, so she
Yeah.
gave 6 and she kept 4.
Yeah, so she got judgment as well. Like if somebody got hungry and then let's say there's 10 people is going to be hungry in the streets, she give each one of them.
Oh, so that's harder. No, I think.
So she got two judgments, like
Nachon,
one
nachon.
kindness and then one.
Nachon. So getting that balance is
So
tricky.
We cannot always like give. Sometimes,
Nachon.
even though there's like people.
Nachon. And sometimes giving to our children or to our parents is also giving. Meaning giving doesn't always necessarily have to be outside of the family unit. Okay, I want to very, very quickly look at the third topic. The third topic is Darkei Shalom. And that is, to what extent, we spoke about giving to communities, to what extent are we required to give to communities outside of our community? Meaning, I know there was a story many years ago, I actually learned this with a group of students from New Zealand, and there was some big national disaster, I can't remember what it was, in New Zealand, maybe like 10 years ago. Anyway, as a result of this national disaster, the Jewish community and lots of other people in the community were in a pickle, and the local Jewish community, the Jewish community from elsewhere in New Zealand, raised a lot of money, and they gave 80% of their money towards the Jewish community, and 20% of their money they gave to general charities, because they felt that if we're only providing for our own, there's something missing in that. You follow? And really the Gemara talks about that over here. The rabbis taught us, Mefarasim aniyei nochrim im aniyei Yisrael. We are obliged to provide for the poor in non-Jewish communities as well as those in the Jewish community. Umavakrin choli nochrim im choli Yisrael. V'korvim matei nochrim im matei Yisrael mipnei darkei shalom. That we are obliged to visit the sick, both Jews and non-Jews, and bury the dead, both Jews and non-Jews, for the sake of darkei shalom. That our responsibility is not just for ourselves, but it's for the wider community. I'm not going to read the last two sources. They're in English, so you can enjoy reading them yourselves. But both in the Aruch HaShulchan and also in the words of Rav Soloveitchik, he talks about how it's all about percentages. That I don't have to give all of the money, all of my resources in one particular place, but it's very important. I think perhaps as part of my human dignity, that I have a responsibility not just to my community, but I have a responsibility to the wider community as well. And although my primary concern, and that's without a doubt, my primary concern is for my community, but that doesn't make me deaf to the calls of other people as well. And therefore, I have to find the right balance to provide primarily to my community, but also provide to some extent to other communities as well. Okay, people, just to summarize in the final minute, we were speaking about the limits of communal responsibility, and I think we've probably come to a conclusion here that a community, in order to stay as a community, has a responsibility towards itself. And the responsibility of a community is not just that the people in the community are alive, but we're not allowed to put a strain on a community that would make it difficult for the community to continue to function. So, I might prioritize the library in my shul over, providing for the Meals on Wheels for the community next door. Because even though my library isn't going to save any lives, but my library is a requirement of my community, and therefore that my library would take precedence over the next community's Meals on Wheels to provide for people that can't provide food. But that doesn't mean I'm not required to do anything for them, but my primary responsibility is towards my community, but I also have a secondary responsibility towards other communities and need to provide something for them as well.
Wow.
Joy, happiness. People, it is a joy as always to learn with you. Wishing you a wonderful evening. Yishar Koach.